I feel like whenever it happens will always be the right and the divine timing. And here we are, we're finally doing this. Bronwyn, how are you? Hi everyone, it's Adrian Pangilinan, and welcome back to Soul Supremacy, where we will talk about all things unapologetic, all things passion and in pursuit of. And for tonight's episode, we have a very, 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 really very special guest because we have my dear and lovely friend, Bronwyn Huddleson. She is someone that I've been courting, like what I told her, courting to be on my show ever since I started this earlier this year. But, I just feel like even though it may have taken a second, I feel like whenever it happens will always be the right and the divine timing. And here we are, we're finally doing this. Bronwyn, how are you?
I'm good. And we're finally doing it too. Yeah. I finally had the courage.
Aww. Thank you. Well, thank you for your courage. Thank you for showing up, because I feel like that's always been like what's coming out of my mouth. Show up, show up, show up, show up. Because that's where I'm at too. In my current journey in my life is like, yes, be scared, but still show up,
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started, I just, and I'm going to ask you this question to Bronwyn actually, but I just briefly want to share how Bronwyn and I met, or I guess, so Bronwyn and I actually met at very specific, points, like chapters of our lives back in February 2018. So I had just literally graduated from San Diego State, and I had just started my full-time job. I was depressed, y'all. So Michelle Kamaya, shout out to Michelle Kamaya, who I'm not sure if she's teaching here. I'm not sure if they're open, but I'm not sure. Like she was one of the teachers there. So she invited me for a free class. And I believe that Bronwyn, if not that first class, but one of the later classes, she was one of the receptionists, front desk. She was working front desk. I don't know what the title is, but she was one of the front desk people, and I mean, talk about, just kind of meeting at different points of our lives, and the rest was history. We will talk about that actually later. But so I'm stuttering. I don't know why I got nervous. But
nerves are a good thing.
No, it is. And this is the show where we for the most part we don't filter, because unless if it's a long awkward pause, then we will cut that out. But okay. So this is a show where we do talk about all things unapologetic. So this is me being unapologetic. But before we get started with the icebreaker questions, I also did want to take the time to introduce our friend Bronwyn over here. She is a fine arts photographer, an artist, a dreamer, and overall a very, very, very beautiful person, as I'm sure you can tell in her photography. So my friend, we're going to get started with the icebreaker question. So are you ready, or are you ready?
Ready.
No, she sounded like she was not ready, but we'll continue. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No.
Ready.
Yes, there you go. Okay, my friend. So my first question for you is, what are 3 things about you that people wouldn't normally think or know when they meet you for the first time?
Ooh, okay. That's a tricky one. I would say a lot of people wouldn't know about my cultural history, which to me, more and more lately, is becoming very, very important. And I've been trying to dive into that more. Family is mixed racially, and my grandmother is from St. Lucia. She married my mom's dad, who was from Wales in the United Kingdom, at a time where that was very, very against everything in the United States. She's African American. So having that rich cultural history is something that a lot of people wouldn't guess when they first meet me. And it's something that I'm trying to embrace more fully, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. It's really important that we hold on to our culture. Something else, a lot of people probably wouldn't know that I am very outdoor enthusiast, as far as adventuring, and super into risk taking in the outdoors, I would say, especially when it comes to my photography. Like I'll be the one standing on a ledge and you probably don't want to watch me because it's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
But I'm like so down to try all of the outdoor adventure sports and activities and all of that and like really dive full into them, especially since I've been living in the mountains. I've been doing a lot more of that. And that's probably something that you wouldn't guess. Right? What's the third thing?
Yes. What's the third thing? What's that last thing? Give us a fun fact.
Thing.
Fun fact.
Fun fact about Bronwyn.
Yes.
Gosh.
Or better yet, what's your zodiac sign? Because everyone loves to ask about that. I'm like, I don't care. Okay. I'm an Aries. But what's yours?
Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I don't follow that stuff very much, but from what I do, I definitely like represent that Sagittarius.
That energy. Yeah. Because I feel like yes. Sorry, I got thrown off for a second. I'm an Aries, and from what I read about Aries and like Sagittarius, there's like a certain like intense connection in that way. So I think that describes our like kind of artistic, like especially when it comes to like our artistic relationship. It's like it's like a sizzle. Yeah. Okay.
Sparks.
Yes, it sparks. Yes. Okay, so thank you for answering that first question. So my next question for you is, what is your current go-to comfort food when your day gets rough, when things get a little rough? What is something that you run to feel better? Or drink, food? I don't know.
Okay, so that's an interesting one because I feel like lately, I mean, I'm kind of like always off and on trying to like experiment with things like food wise that make me feel good and noticing things that like maybe instant gratification make me feel good, but later on don't so much, which are like more cravings that I try to not give into so much. But I will say, like a comfort thing that I always turn to that's like pretty simple is just toast, like bread. I'm a sucker for bread. Toast with peanut butter, toast with avocado, just toast with jam, toast with butter. Especially if I have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
Oh, yes.
Toast and tea, just like, like a hot drink with some toast.
Oh,
I'm right.
That actually reminds me of mine. It's not like you asked, but I'm just kidding. Okay. So I love carbs, but I feel like bread is not necessarily like my go-to. You know, I do like bread though, but like when you said toast, I immediately thought of my go-to comfort food especially when it gets cold, especially when you're single, you know, you want to feel warm, is like a simple, oh gosh, I forgot it. Tomato soup with parsley.
Ooh,
yeah. Let's just say that I pronounced that correctly. Then I like to put butter on top of it. Like I like it creamy, and then with a toasted bread.
That sounds really good. I love hot soup too.
Yeah.
Even in the summer, like Thai food and pho. I love that kind of food. Even if it's hot outside, like I will eat that all the time.
You know, actually, yesterday or the last couple of days, since I had just finished a 48-hour film festival, and for those that are not familiar with that, 48 hours or whatever the number is means that that's the only time that you have to create something. So we literally only had like 48 hours to like produce, write, film, edit, and submit.
Wow.
So yesterday during like our last like leg, we were looking at different places, and I saw like a Thai place across. I was like, I want to go, but we ended up not going. But so to basically, Thai food has also been like my go-to, food. So yeah,
that's a good one. I say toast more so because that's like something that I know I can pretty much get. Like I can have it anytime. Like I probably always have some sort of bread in my house. Where like Thai food, I probably don't always have the ingredients to that. Like comfort wise, also like ease of getting for me. Like if I can get it easily when I'm like thinking like, oh, this would feel good right now. And like, oh, I can have it right now. Perfect.
See, this is why I love. Oh gosh, this is weird. I was like trying to cover my cough earlier. Hold on. Okay, let me start with. Okay, I'm gonna start fresh with that sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say was that's why I super appreciate Bronwyn was because she took our question to the meta level, which is what I super love about her because it's not just about the taste of comfort. It's also the process, the ease of getting the food in itself or creating it or whatever, you know? So nice. Okay. So my last question for you is for this icebreaker round is, okay. So if Bronwyn Huddleson were to have her own TikTok dance challenge, what would the first move look like? How would it start? And you have to demonstrate.
Man. Okay, I'm gonna have to stand up for this.
Yes, go. Ooh, she's getting off the chair. Bye, girl.
Can you see me? Oh wait.
Yes. Oh wait, no, wait. There.
All right. Well, it'd have to be something like.
Yes.
Let me just turn the camera. That's easier.
Very good. Oh wait. Oh, do it again. My internet. Wait. Yes. Start all over again. The internet connection.
Okay.
Froze. Go ahead. Go. I love it. Yes, I love it. It's like row, brown your boat. No, I'm just kidding. Bronwyn. I love it.
Right. I feel like you could do it to any music.
You can.
Those sort of moves.
But actually, like a lot of my friends had like, you know, past guests that I've had on the show, some went and then some went and then yeah, so fun times. Okay, so now that we've gotten out of the way, I'm sure Bronwyn feels a little bit more energized with that like blood circulating exercise in the podcast. I'm gonna keep coughing. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Now that Bronwyn has like gotten her blood circulating, now we're gonna proceed to the main interview with the very first question, and that is, who is Bronwyn?
I am Bronwyn in the flesh, and I'm an artist. I think even above photographer, the way I look at the world is with a very artistic point of view. And I say that in a way where I try to see the beauty in everything, even the things that aren't beautiful. I think there is beauty in them, even if it's something that is teaching us something that is beautiful, a lesson, a challenge that is beautiful. And then just simple beauty, like a flower, smelling a flower, looking at a flower, nature. So I am very simple and yet very, very much in tune with this world as art.
Wow.
I think that's the best way that I can really put it. I just want to create art. I want to be artistic and creative, and I want to see it, and I want to see other people do it. I can inspire other people to find what makes them feel artistic and creative. I think that it's really good for our soul.
Yes. You are art. That's what it is.
I am art. Bronwyn is art.
Yes, Bronwyn is art, which is why I feel like her and I clicked so well, which is actually a perfect segue to our next question, because I'm usually never good with my segues. It's always choppy and awkward, but but how did we meet? So I know that I've kind of mentioned it earlier, but from your lens, from your like perspective, how did we meet?
So I was working at the yoga studio. working the front desk, and I loved that job because of getting to meet people. And sometimes people would make conversation with me, and sometimes they would just be there to do their yoga and head out. And I remember, I think it was after your first class, Adrian, like you come out of the classroom. And I was just there to talk to you. And I think we just like hit it off. And you were saying how you just graduated, and you also were talking about how you knew Michelle and you did dance, and that you were into photography. And so we like kind of started talking about all this art. And it was
I remember it was like photography specifically. When you said that, I was like,
yeah. And then I think it was either right away or the next time you came into class, we were like, let's exchange info. Like, let's go get some coffee and like talk about photography. Do you want to do stuff together? Like, and then we started collaborating. It's like, the rest is history. It was like, oh my gosh, I have a friend to do art with. This is so fun. And not only that, but like, I really, really value diversity in my friendships, in just the way that I see the world. And for me, like, that's really special to be able to click with someone who seemingly is like so different from you. And yet like, there's so much that we have in common, and our differences also are so beautiful. And like, I really helped us create even a better collaboration, because it's like we have these different backgrounds, and so we're coming up with these ideas based on different ways that we've learned things and just seeing things. Our perspective, is different. And then it was also like very similar in a way that we were able to like mesh it together and create these beautiful photography sessions that were so much fun.
Yeah, such a like what I said earlier, such a beautiful like chapter of my life specifically. It's like, actually, I was telling Bronwyn, I was like, I lost those photos.
Oh my gosh, I know. I was actually just trying to find those the other day, and I didn't find them.
Oh, you didn't find them? Oh no.
No.
It's okay. Oh,
I have yours from the session that we did. Oh my gosh.
Is it the orange background? Wait, did you find any or no? If not, it's okay.
No, like from when we went to LA.
No, yes, yeah. I think we only went to LA once.
Yeah. And we were like around that Disney building.
Yeah, because those are the shots that you found, like the Disney Music Hall. That's what it is. Yeah.
No, I know, and I didn't find any that weren't mine.
It's okay. No, you're good. It's interesting because it's like it just disappeared. But I can hear myself echo. Oh, wait. Sorry. But at least, you all got your photos. And for me, I think the fact that we have our group shots out there, that's more than enough for me, because I love that. It's like a family. It's literally like a family portrait of like 4 people. You have like me, Filipino male. Then you have my other friend, Filipina. And then you have Lorraine, who's like half like, or she's like part Italian, part Latina. And then we have Bronwyn over here. So it was really like like diversity at its finest.
Yes, it was so beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I guess my next question for you is we're actually gonna like take a plunge to your childhood, because I'm always interested to like learn how people grew up, because however that ended up being, like, that does say a lot about who the person is now. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of who and what a young Bronwyn was when she was young and how she grew up in this world.
Okay. Well, I grew up as a baby sister. So I have one older brother. He's 2 years older than me. And I remember definitely looking up to him my whole childhood, like always wanting to learn from him. That made me pretty adventurous, I would say, because I was, I was smaller than him. And so if I were to see him do something, I wanted to try it. And then I think that kind of like played into the rest of my childhood, even when I wasn't with him, it was like, I want to try that. Like you see somebody do something and it's like, whoa, like that's really cool. Try that. I want to do that. I loved getting dirty. I was a soccer player and I was a goalkeeper, and my favorite games were when it was like raining and muddy and I could dive in the mud. Like literally that was amazing. I loved that.
She was Bronwyn Huddleson.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I loved getting dirty and just like playing outside, playing in the dirt. I remember playing with clay. I remember like going into these like the creek in my backyard and like going into these tunnels, which I later found out were like this tunnel. So that's gross, but I was a kid and I didn't care.
Okay. I just want to like, that reminded me of like my childhood in the Philippines where I swam in the canal. Like, I was like, this is the best thing ever. I was like, this is black. I can't see anything. But I was a kid. I did, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I just enjoyed, like, I guess that's just me, like enjoying being in the water in general. So I was like, oh, I'm swimming. Woo.
Yeah.
And then but then I remember it smelled. I was like, okay, there's a smell to it. But literally the way that I'm describing it now was like my thought process as a kid. I was like, no big deal. And then when I get back, they're like, why did you swim in the canal?
You're like, I was free. It was fun.
Right. I was like, it's funny because even at a young age, I was like pretending to act. I was like pretending to drown. I was like, someone save me.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's like the things that really like made you feel free as a kid. You know, we didn't know as much as we do as adults. And so we didn't hold ourselves back.
Yes.
Whereas adults, we like either we have experience or we've seen or heard something. And so then it like holds us back a little bit. So I was definitely
the consequences feel more weighted. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you say that last part again? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was definitely a free bird as a kid. You know, I was very
uninhibited. There you go.
Yes. Yeah, uninhibited. I was very artistic. Yeah, thanks. But I was also like, I was very extroverted, but I was also very into like my own time and my own space. Like, I remember just loving being in my bedroom and like nobody bothering me. Like I would just go into my room and that was like my safe space. And I would like, listen to music and color and draw and make up dance moves and sing. And, I was just like, loved my own time. And, but I was also a very person. So I loved hanging out with friends and meeting people. And my parents were very social and they would have friends over at our house all the time. And I think those interactions really helped me mature, just like getting to interact with adults so frequently, where I wasn't treated like a kid. I was treated with respect and like somebody who's going to grow up and be an adult one day. So I think like those kind of interactions with my brother, my older brother, and then my parents' friends really helped me mature and socialize in a way. Yeah, I was very athletic and creative. I remember picking up dance moves with my girlfriends and doing karaoke and making bracelets and drawing, just all the silly things. And growing up, I grew up in Ohio.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, so I grew up in central Ohio in the suburbs of Columbus, and I had a great community. Like the schools I went to were very diverse, which I really, really cherished. And I will say though, like now living in California for 7.5 years.
Wow, 7.5 years. I remember when we met, you said you had just moved here a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
She said 7.5 years. Girl, that's almost 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. My first opportunity to like move out on my own was after college. And I was like, I want to go to California. So I will say like looking back, I mean, no regrets. I had a great childhood, but I totally wish that I would have had access to more outdoor activities, more adventure, like more extreme adventure, you know, more than just like riding my bike or rollerblading down the neighborhood and like playing at the playground. I wish I could have like been in the mountains, mountain biking and hiking and, you know, just doing a lot more of that. But it's okay that I didn't, because I knew that was the thing I wanted to do. And so I put myself in a place where I could do more of that. And so for the last 7.5 years, I've fully embraced being by the ocean or in the mountains or in the valley where, you know, I was learning about new environments and what I could do in them. And also like the kind of art that I could create in those environments and like how those inspired me. So I think that like growing up in flatland is kind of like what I would call Ohio and what people like call people from the Midwest, I think, because it's very, very flat and rural there. Is that it really gave me a sense of like, there's a lot more than where I am right now. And I want to see that.
Wow. My follow-up question is, how did you get into photography? Because you just mentioned that you like were so free and you basically did a lot of things, right? And at some point it's like, oh, I'm possibly going to do this. I'm possibly going to do that. But like, what about photography specifically? Like, what about it specifically made you realize that this may be it, you know? And at what point did that begin? I'm curious.
So, I mean, I remember getting my first camera when I was in high school, like my first real camera. I remember loving, you know, taking pictures and stuff with my friends, but I think it was for my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe my 16th birthday. One of those like big birthdays. My parents got me a digital camera that I could change the lens. That was
it a Nikon?
No, it was Canon.
Oh, okay. Oh, parents knew what they were getting you.
Yeah, it was a Canon. T3i. T3i.
Ooh, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So, you know, crop sensor, but I could change the lens. So I had two lenses for it, which was really cool.
And it's so good and so amazing quality.
Oh my gosh,
like for your first camera, a DSLR, amazing quality, right?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. And I was very, very excited about it. But but at that point, for me, it was a fun hobby. I definitely wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with like the rest of my life. Like supposedly we're supposed to know that at the age of 18.
And it's only supposed to be one, you know?
Right. Yeah. So I went to college. My first year of college, I was actually studying pre-physical therapy. And I did a whole year of that. And by the end of that year, I was like, this is not for me. This is not actually how I want to spend the next 40 or 50 years. I thought that I would like it because I was an athlete and I had like undergone physical therapy. But I realized after a lot of experience in classes, and I did like a shadowing for a week at a physical therapist office. And I was like, okay, this isn't for me. And so I remember talking to my parents and being like, I don't think I want to study this anymore. And my mom said, why don't you study photography? You've always loved it. You take great photos. Like you've always loved art, you know, like, do you think you would like that? And I was like, you want me to study photography? Like I was going to Purdue University, which is not like a fine art school. It's actually like an engineering school.
And it's an amazing college too.
It's a great college.
Yes, oh my gosh. I've heard about it. Yes.
And so after that first year, it's like, okay, well, I'll switch to photography. And so I ended up graduating with a degree in photography and related media. And that is by far the best decision I ever made. And I will say, I mean, probably almost instantly when I started taking those classes, because my first photography class was a black and white film class. And we got to develop our own film. Like we had a dark room and we did the whole process. And I think at that moment I was like, this is what I want to do. this is
Wow.
like where my passion lies. And like very broadly still too, right? Like I didn't know what type of photography I wanted to do or maybe what I'm going to do with it, but it was like, I could do this forever. And
There's
then
a forever.
finished college. And actually when I graduated college, I was not expecting to get a job in photography, especially because a lot of people, I remember like throughout college, a lot of people would be like, what are you studying? And I'm like, photography. And they're like, oh, that's a major? You know, people were so shocked that you could study that and get a degree in that. And so despite all of that, I got a job as a product photographer for this pilot program with Google right after I graduated. And I did that for 8 weeks.
I definitely did not know that about you.
Yeah. It was a short gig, but it was really awesome because I was fresh out of college. Like, I mean, I did a great job and I was able to apply all of those really technical things that I learned with lighting and framing and all of that for products. So I did that. And then from there, I was in California at that point. And so I started experimenting in a lot of different types of photography and just trying to feel it all out and, you know, see what really like grabbed me. Yes. I'd always loved landscape photography, like even before then, even before I studied it. I think like taking photos of nature was what I really loved. But I wanted to step out of that and, you know, try everything I could because I had the expertise now. I had that skill set. Could branch out and do a lot more with it and kind of let those other experiences guide me in figuring out how else I could use photography in my career.
Nice. Wow. I'm just like, wow. I love it. Bronwyn, I know that you've like, I think I know this, and you've actually just like talked about it twice now, but if it's okay with you, would you mind elaborating just a little bit more on like what made you move to California? Because I feel like and you said you came from, where's Purdue again?
Purdue's in Indiana, right next to Ohio.
Okay. So I guess the reason why I want to ask that question is like, well, actually, you like, we don't have to move out of our city to find success, but there is something about sometimes like recognizing that the opportunities may not be here and like knowing that, but then like the next part is like the acknowledging, but then taking that next step. So would you mind like just sharing a little bit about like the courage and just kind of like your thought process on like, I'm gonna move to California? You know, like it's kind of like it's opposite. You know, so like on the other side of the world. So please share.
Okay. So I remember when I was like 10, I think I was like 10 years old, my uncle lived in San Francisco. And so my family, we came out and we visited once. And maybe a year after that, my brother and I got to fly out alone and visit with him. And after those 2 trips to California, even though it was in the city, I still saw how much like diversity there was in the environment in just like such a short like space. That's such a like, you know, like 2 hours you can be in the ocean, 2 hours you can be in the mountains, valley. And so from then, like I was like 10 or 11 years old and I was like, oh, I think I would love living in California. And then, you know, went through life, went through school, went to college, and I had applied to a lot of different schools for college. But I only got into a few, and 2 of them were in Ohio, and then the other one was Purdue, which was about 4 hours driving from where I grew up. And so that is far enough away that I'm like going to be on my own, because for me, college was that. It was to like go out and be on my own.
Sense of self.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, it's close enough that I could still go home and visit family when I want, but it's far enough that I'm like in my own new space. And I didn't know a single person that was going to Purdue, where like a lot of my friends went to Ohio State, which was right near where I lived. And I didn't even either, because I was like, I know that I don't want to be this close to home. So I went to Purdue, and I think like probably after that first year, I was like, okay, well, I know that I don't want to live here. Like, I don't want to live in this college town after I graduate. And I had the opportunity to go out and like visit a friend in California a couple times. And then I was pretty sure by my junior year that I was going to live in California. I was like, I want to go live somewhere where, one, I can photograph like mountains and just more diverse landscape, you know, because it was really challenging to find that in Ohio and Indiana. And after all of my photography classes, and, you know, we would have project prompts, a lot of them, I would want to be doing these things out in nature, but I just didn't really have the connection there that I wanted to have. And so then the summer before my last year of college, I lived in California with a friend for 3 months just to make sure that, like, yeah, I want to move here. And I loved it, and I had a great experience, and I was like, yep, I want to move there. So I graduated in May of 2014, and by the end of that month, I was living in California.
Yeah, she marched herself to California.
I mean, I straight up had like $900 to my name. I was broke.
Oh my God.
But I didn't have a job yet.
Yes, actually, that's my follow-up question. How did you make it work?
Yeah, I didn't have a job yet. I had family in the area and friends, and so that was really helpful. And then, you know, my friend's family actually took me on like a graduation trip to Kauai, which was so special and so awesome of her and her family. So like I moved to
Middle East, or is that
Kauai in Hawaii.
Oh, you said Hawaii. I was just kidding. I thought I heard you say Kuwait. I was like,
oh no, that would be cool. But no,
yeah, you would love that for sure.
Yeah,
the deserts.
Yeah. But yeah, so we went to Hawaii for a week. So I moved to California, and then within like 2 days, we were flying to Hawaii, and we were there for a week. And like over that time, we were on vacation, but I was also like applying for jobs like every single day. And then we got back, I had a job offer, and I had like a phone call interview, and then I got a job offer for that product photography gig.
Nice.
And so then from there, it just kind of like set me up to create a life out there. And yeah.
Wow.
I had a lot of support. I didn't do it alone. That's for sure.
Yes. But it also sounds like, I mean, I was going to say, you made it sound so simple. And I know that it's not simple, but at the same time, things can be simple. You know?
Yeah.
Like
totally.
Things don't always have. Is my grammar correct? Hold on, sorry. Things don't always have to be complicated. Like we don't always gotta make things complicated, because sometimes, not sometimes, but all the time, that's what kind of the process. You know, it's just like, just get it done. You know.
Yeah, and for me, that's what it was. It was like, I know I want to be here, so I'm gonna find a way to make it work. Like the hardest part was buying a flight and doing it. Right.
Was leaving, right?
Yeah. And it was like, well, I had already done that for college, and I made it work. I made friends. That's a different environment. You know, you're surrounded by 40,000 students who are at the same part of their life as you.
So it's kind of a little bit I guess, not situational, but kind of like, you all happen to be there at the same time. And it's just like, almost like high school.
Yeah.
You become friends with the people that you're at because you always see them and they're always there.
Yeah. But I will say that like that experience of going to a school where I didn't know anybody and like taking that leap of like, this is totally new and totally unknown to me, and I just want to do it, definitely helped me in like making that decision to, again, like move somewhere where I barely knew anybody and I didn't have a job and I didn't know what I was going to be doing. But once I did it, it was like, okay, I'm here. Like that was not as hard as I tried to like make myself think it would be. And I'm already like accomplishing your goal, which was to live in California and to be somewhere where I can do more with my like artistic interests. And yeah, I mean, it definitely was not easy, but I tried to make it simple. I didn't have a car. I
Ooh,
used public
yeah.
transportation for the whole first year and a half that I was in California.
Mhm.
Um,
Me too.
yeah,
First, I think I didn't get my first car till I was 21, and I'd been commuting since 17. So
wow. Good for you. And that I think gives us so much experience to not
yeah,
just be like, I have my own car and I can do this, and I don't have to rely on anybody or anything else to get to where I want to go. It's like, okay, I actually need to map out my day and figure out when the transportation is leaving and the times, and like, there's a lot more logistics, and I think that that gave me a lot of good experience to have to do that.
yes, yeah, and also like besides like being street smarts, like I'm not sure about you, but like I remember when I got my license like almost 10 years ago now. I remember one of the first things I thought of right away that I would miss was like the interactions with the people, with the bus drivers, with not so much with the trolley because you don't see them, but with the bus drivers, with like the people that you sit down next to,
Yeah.
or like even if it's late at night. I mean, granted, I like hold my bag with my dear life, but like just knocking out at like falling asleep. I'm like, oh, I'm home. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kind of like getting off the bus, like,
Yeah.
clearly can't do that when you're the driver.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, just the
Yeah.
simple things. Yeah,
The simple things. Yeah. And I think also helped, like I said, like, to not make things so complicated. Like,
yeah,
I think our minds try to complicate things and make things seem worse than they are or more challenging. And for me, I
penetrate.
love a challenge,
No, no, yes, for
but
sure.
I really appreciate like figuring out how to simplify and like being
Mhm.
okay with things being
What
very simple.
is?
Yeah,
What
and what
is?
is, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with me. It's like I think that's just really part of our like kind of being like like our survival skills. It's like always gonna make sure you're okay. So I guess kind of always having that like thing that's like trying to make sure that you're okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So my what, actually I only have a couple more questions left for you, but for the next one is I really want to like delved a little bit more deeper into your journey and your work as a photographer. Like, I'm interested for our audience, whether they're tuning in on YouTube or listening on their way to work or wherever through our podcast. Can you share about your thought processes of your stories and how you see like your art with photography?
Hmm. Um, Gosh, that's kind of tricky. I will say probably 99% of my inspiration comes from things that I've already experienced
Mm,
or like environments that I've experienced. And that like point 0.1 or 1% comes from like things that I want to experience, but I try to not
mm,
take myself out of the present.
mm,
So, like a lot of my inspiration is from traveling, meeting other people, meeting new cultures, experiencing things that were once unknown to me, and then I was able to learn about them. And not only did I learn that foreign thing, it taught me something about myself. And so I think I kind of use a lot of that in creating my art and my photography. And definitely like having a community of people to bounce ideas off of helps me spark that, creative juice. But mostly it's like, for me, I love just like going on hikes by myself and taking photos. Just like being in spaces where I'm not judging myself. I'm not letting myself feel judged by anybody who's watching me, and just like being able to see something and think like, wow, I want to create something out of that. How can I do that? And maybe it's instant, maybe right then, like I take a photo and that's what I create. And sometimes it's like, I don't even want to take a photo of it. Actually, I just want to really like take in this experience and think about it and like, yeah, and zen out on like how that made me feel. Because so much of what I create and what I want to create is to make people feel something. I want to inspire people and I make people feel deeper than just, you know, so much of this life is very surface level, and like the digital world is so just surface level sometimes, that even like having conversations like this, it's like we're helping people think more deeply and from different perspectives, and just to see a different perspective. So valuable for everybody. So I think like a lot of what I have felt inspired me, I want to then like translate that feeling that it created in me through my art.
That
I think
visceral
that's a lot of my
feeling,
process.
fleeting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, where it's like, yes, I do a very visual art, but for me, it's much more than just that visual aspect. It's very
It
emotional and
transcends.
spiritual, and yes, much deeper than just a picture.
Nice. I'm so glad that you said that, because so part of the 48-hour film festival that I did, we actually had a photographer, which is like not only amazing, but in this industry kind of it's becoming like a job in itself. So we were so glad to have him. Shout out Jamal. Jamal,
Whoop, whoop.
I don't know his last name, but I was gonna say Simmons, but that's not his last name, sorry. So we were like at some point like almost spending 48 hours together. We were just like talking about our works. He reminds me of you, actually, like a studied, very technical, but I think like what I noticed, I feel like, and this is maybe like a and I know you can relate to this when you talk to another photographer of like maybe where you feel like something could, like an added thing that could maybe, like a feedback. There you go, feedback. That's what it was. I was telling him that like your works are very like visually pleasing, and of course I'm gonna be biased by saying this, but it feels like it lacks emotion. I'm like don't be afraid to like be like, because as a photographer, from my experience, like in order for your model to like be where they're at state wise, you have to like convey that, you have to communicate that to them, you have to like take them through that journey. So let's say you want someone to feel angsty, it's not going to be like give me a sad face, but rather like how can we get you there? Because then I feel like, like when someone looks at it in the end, it's like either I mean, I guess like either you'll feel something or you won't, which is what you've like talked so much about, like about how your line of work is not just about the aesthetics. Well, yes, it is about nature and it's beautiful in itself, but it's really like taking your humanity, which is Bronwyn, and putting herself in it and like making it her own. Like, because technically too, literally anyone can take the same like picture of that location, but it's like how you put yourself in that I feel like really makes it you.
That's a great way to say it.
I said a lot.
Really way to say it. That is, you hit it right. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's putting, myself, my emotion, that like that thing that I'm feeling so deeply from that space that I'm in, and like somehow portraying that through this visual platform.
Yeah. Okay, speechless. I'm just kidding. No, I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, Bronwyn, I have a couple more questions for you. So I guess give me a second. Hold on. How many questions? No, I think I have one more question in the main interview, and then we're actually ready to wrap up. Okay, so as we wrap this up, as someone that's like been in your industry for a while, what advice can you give to up and coming emerging photographers like yourself? Like what would you tell like a younger version of Bronwyn when she was just starting in her career? Like the young Bronwyns out there being like, I want to do this. I want to, either go to school and study photography, or maybe I don't have to go to school and study photography, but I still want to do this. Like, how do I make this happen?
Let go of any boundaries or limits that anyone else or yourself tries to give you, because that is the beauty of exploring as a career, is that you can't have boundaries. You can't, boundaries being like
Limiting beliefs.
Yes, you can't take something somebody says to heart about
And
what
make that
you
the
can
truth.
do with your career, with your art, because we can literally do anything that we want. You know, sometimes it's hard to believe that, but if I really tell myself that and I look at what I've done already, it's like I've tapped off a lot of life goals that I had. And that's amazing. And I'm so
Yes.
grateful. And it's because I didn't limit myself. I was broke. I was eating, pretty much like ramen noodles every day because I was so broke. I was pursuing what I loved, and I was happy because I was making sacrifices to expand that expertise and experience in photography, and not just like go out and take photos as often as you can. Also develop other skills around that. I think something that I've learned, I would say over the last 10 years, is that it doesn't just have to be one narrow road of photography. Kind of like what we were talking about way earlier. I feel like even though I have a part-time job all the time, even when I was in San Diego and I was pretty full-time with my photography, I was still working a side job. But for me, it wasn't just, yes, it was a job to help me pay the bills, but it was still something that I felt like was helping me grow helping me be more of who I am. And every job that I get now as a side job is still something that is more than just paying the bills. Whether it's who I'm meeting through that job, new skills that I'm learning through that job. And then I give a lot of credit to my college degree in liberal arts, where I figured out how to take XYZ very different skill sets, or like very different subjects of something that I was doing or learning, and figure out how they all relate and how they all can help each other. And so I don't think that you have to stay super narrow on one road to just do photography and feel like if you can't put all your time into that, you can't do it, because that's not true. You can do it even if you only put a couple hours in a month, if it's something that you really want to do, and you'll figure out how these other things that you're doing can play into it. Even if it's a few months down the road. I was serving, I was a waitress this summer. How does that help me with photography? Well, it keeps my people skills up. It keeps my communication skills up. It gives me opportunity to meet people and possibly give them my business card and make these new connections. And it also just helps me see other people's perspectives, which is a huge part of my art also. Is like, it can't just be how I see it. It has to be how other people are going to see it, because that's going to be buying it is other people. And so it's really valuable to just talk to people, like, even if it's not about art, even if it's not about photography, let's just hear what other people are thinking, what goes on in that other person's mind, because it's what's making this world go round. And then like taking things like that and challenging yourself to incorporate that into your photography, into what you want to do with your art, because it's not just like one straight, simple line.
Yeah.
It's a very ebb line.
Yes, ebb and flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really important, I think, to not feel like off track if you're not putting 100% of your time into it, because you can still be very much on track as long as it's something that you're always going back to. And for me, it's like I kind of said, I see the world in a very artistic way. So even if photography and like how I'm going to make it my career is not always on my mind, something with creation and like how can I educate people, and also like how can I make people like feel more deeply and change their perspective a little bit. Things like that are always on my mind. And like having conversations with people, I can like ignite those kind of questions or feelings that I have constantly by just talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I've well, first of all, she said everything okay. So I'm really speechless because I was like, she was talking to me, like literally talking to me too. I think there is something really beautiful about like allowing yourself to live life, to grow, and I would even say this may be such an unpopular opinion. Y'all don't come at me, but but it's okay too to step away from your work, because for me personally, like sometimes I think that's actually where the power of like being like a multi-hyphenated artist is what I'm like calling myself. Being multi-hyphenated, like because one season, like, yes, I'm so into my photography, and then the next season can be like, oh, I'm so into my YouTube, or the next, because then it's I feel like for me it's been working out because it's been allowing me to make it like such a ecosystem for me that it all goes back, and like sometimes like stepping away from my work is really important for me, actually, especially with photography. Well, actually everything, but specifically with photography, because like I look at people like Bronwyn or my other friends that I have, and I'm like, they are like literally doing it. So for me, it gives me the chance to really reflect, which is another important thing, is to take a step back and reflect on the work that you're doing. And it's like, sometimes it's not just about producing pretty work, but it's like how does this make me feel, and actually how does this like contribute to the world,
Yeah.
besides just like the on the surface photos.
Yes. Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And reflection is so important, like you said. Something that's like a part of my process that is kind of like my period of reflection is after I go do a shoot, or after I'm out in nature photographing, after I use my camera and I take photos, very rarely do I ever get home, plug in my SD card right away and look at those photos. I don't do that. I let my camera sit there for a day or two, and I don't look at the photos, and I just let myself like soak in what that experience was. And then when I go back and look at the photos, it's like, because if I look at them right away, honestly, there'd be a little disappointed, because I was there first person without the camera and I was seeing it all with my eyes. And sometimes like that's still what is replaying in my head. And so I look at the photos and it's like, that's not what I saw.
Well, and you're also tired, like being tired.
And and you're trying to do it right away, where I feel like I give myself a day or two, sometimes even longer. And I go back and and you go in and then you look at your photos
with a fresh set of eyes,
set of eyes, and a fresh mindset too, where like, yes, you had that experience and you got to live in that experience, and you gave yourself some time to reflect on that experience without the photography, without the digital stuff that you feel like you have some sort of expectation of what it's going to look like. If you give yourself time to reflect on like what it was you were doing and why you were doing it, then I think later when you go back and look at the photos, you're getting this fresh perspective on it. And I think that helps with my post-processing, where, you're trying to evoke a certain feeling from these photos. So the way that you edit it is gonna that feel you're feeling at that time. So I think it's really
Yes.
important to like give space.
Oh, I love that. Bronwyn Huddleson on giving space. I love it. No, it is because also too, like, I mean, I know this, but like with the 48-hour film festival that I did yesterday, like filming it was one thing with like the designing the shots and how the actors perform, but then like the editing in itself is also a different battlefield. It's like how you edit it really like determines like where you're at in the space, or how it's edited then really determines the final product. You know,
Yeah.
which I like. I still find it crazy, but cool at the same time because I think for me a lot of the shots that I end up liking aren't necessarily the shot. Weren't necessarily my favorite in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because I've been able to look at it. I was able to look at them with a fresh set of eyes and be like, oh, that's actually beautiful. You know, like
Yeah.
that photo over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend, so before I ask you the closing question, so I know that you are currently working a day job or two, not sure, to to function basically, to operate in this world. Where are you now? Like, oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I forgot my question. I guess my question. I guess the question that I wanted to ask is like what? Oh, got it. Okay, I got it. Sorry. Okay, so I know that you're like juggling a lot of things, and kind of working a day job, and then also doing your photography as well. What can we look forward from you? What can we look forward from you? Like where, like in the future, like what are some of the exciting things? Like trajectory, where are you in the future? There you go.
Yeah. I think well, I'm looking forward to branch out from just print photography. And I don't want to say too much because there's a lot of things that I've kind of been working on behind the scenes. A lot of ideas floating around up here that I'm kind of figuring out how to execute. But mixed media, it's kind of a route that I take and explore a lot more of. And I'm really hoping, working towards having my work in more public places. I just want people to be able to experience the tangible thing versus just seeing it on my Instagram, because you're not going to get the same experience as much as I try, which I honestly don't try that hard on Instagram anymore. But because like I want to figure out how to give people that in-person experience, especially after this last year and a half. Like,
oh yes, how do you take the outdoor experience and like give it to wherever people are at in the world?
Yes. So that's really what I'm working towards, is like having my work in more public spaces, public places where people can be there physically and have an experience in person and with other people around. And then maybe it creates conversation and creates connection. And I want to incorporate more of that in-person community interactive to my art.
Wow.
So look for it in more public spaces.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing that. So my closing question is, and I always love to ask all of our lovely guests that we've had on the show, and this also means that we've made it to the end of the show. And that question is, what is the legacy that Bronwyn, what is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
Very, very simply put, to like live fully for yourself. And I think that needs to be taken to a much, much, much deeper place. That's not a selfish way to look at life, but it's more so a very selfless way. And I think the more that people give in to the desires that they have for themselves, the more we're going to see people giving to the community and communities and to this world in a way that we've not seen in a very, very long time. And I think the more that people like you and me really dive into the things that we feel passionate about, the more that people can do that, the more conversations like this can happen, and the more people can open their eyes, their hearts. Like, it's just going to create a lot wider perspectives, I think, around the world. And it'll be a very giving place if people do that. And it's very selfless to give in to what you love versus just trying to make $1 million, because in the end, all that helps is yourself. Where if what you're trying to do is trying to do something because you love it, it's going to give so much more to the world.
Bronwyn, you have me here tearing up.
Oh, wish I could hug you.
I know. Here, I felt that. And it's funny too, because I think this is the first time that I've actually like gotten like, at least for a podcast, for sure, first time I've like had a guest that like really, whew. Wow. Thank you. Bronwyn said it all, y'all. I don't know what else. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No. Yeah. Like she said it. She basically said it. So on that note, my friend, so you did like not only shared so much of yourself to the world, and also your processes and your future projects. Where can people find you? Like, plug. This is the time for new friends, new followers, new fans to, cheer for you. Where can people find you and see your work, actually?
So Instagram is at Bronwyn_photog. And then my website is bronwynhuddleson.com. And I try to update both semi-regularly.
It's hard.
It is hard. I have a lot of examples of my work on my website, and I also have prints for sale. And if I will have work in public spaces, I will share on both of those platforms.
Bronwyn, I'm thankful. I'm just thankful for you, and I know you know that. And this is exactly why I wanted you on my show, is because this is to really highlight people like yourselves. And it's funny too, because like when I was creating the show, I was like, I got so tired of like seeing the same faces being highlighted over and over again. I was like, what about the people who are not like as well known or as visible in the online space, still doing their work? Like, what about them? So thank you so much for your time. And I guess this is the end of the show. So y'all, this is Soul Supremacy, where we talked about all things unapologetic, all things passionate and in pursuit of. And again, we have the amazing Bronwyn Huddleson. I'm just kidding. Bronwyn Huddleson. Bronwyn Huddleson. And we will see you next Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time for our next guest. Whoever that is, we will see. Have a good night. Thank you, Bronwyn. Say bye to our audience.
This podcast show is a product of Studio Penguino. For more information about advertising, please visit www.adrianpenguino.com.